Hi, Bobby.
You all right?
Yes, good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
All good, all good. Nice to be here.
Yeah, really interesting to find out more about you. So, to kickstart, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in the industry.
Yeah, sure. My name's Bobby DeVeaux. I've been in the industry professionally probably about 20 years, but I've been doing it like realistically close to 30. I made my first website when I was 9, and I'm 38 now, 39 later this year. So yeah, I've obviously been tinkering around with tech for a long time.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I remember you saying that since 9 years old, you've been getting involved in programming and all sorts. So, it's a passion of yours, isn't it? As well as obviously a career.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that you get different people working in our industry. You got people that just do it because they're good at it and they make good money from doing it, and you get others that genuinely just a bit of a geek in it, and it's kind of a passion. I've got friends who, for some reason, have got server racks in the bedroom managing Kubernetes clusters. I'll be honest, that's a bit too geeky for me. But like, yeah, I mean, even such things like when I was at school. I remember being in year 7 and my teacher giving me a bit of paper. I have to make an apple pie crumble or whatever it was, and over the weeks everyone's collecting these pieces of paper, but I decided to go and put them in an Access database because it's more fun
Mm.
that way, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah. Well, I always say if you enjoy what you're doing, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to be better at that because you got a passion and you enjoy it. So thank you. No, that's
Sure.
great. And could you tell us a bit about who you have worked with in the past? So the type of companies, type of projects that you've worked on?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for smaller companies. Initially started out my career working for just like a software development house. So working, just building applications, not just web applications, but actual C#.NET, actual real applications, not just on the web. But most of my stuff has been with the web. Worked for companies like Sky, BP, Shell, IBM. Obviously, from my perspective, nice to have some of these high profile companies on my CV. Also worked for some public sector companies, including like the MOD and DVSA, but probably shouldn't go into too much detail on some of those.
Yeah, be careful what you say. No, that sounds really interesting though.
Uh,
And you've made
uh,
some of your own applications as well, and you've made your own contributions. So some of those projects that you've worked on yourself, and also the contributions would be great to hear about.
yeah, so just because I've got a keen interest, I mean, go back. I remember in like 2010 working on a website. I was at the time working in the affiliate industry as a web developer, um, and I wanted to make some applications to help people make websites online. So I basically made essentially like a site builder, and it basically pulled in data feeds from all sorts of different companies, so you can just spin up a website. I suppose a bit like the what is it? Not Shopify. Shopify kind of lets you
Mm.
do that now. I suppose if I'd have been a bit more industrious, a bit more nuanced with the ways of business, maybe I could have made something similar to that. But essentially, that's what it was. It allowed you to connect all these products and spin up websites like that. But not only that, I'm into health and fitness. I've created an app with a friend of mine, which basically allows you to it integrates with MyFitnessPal,
Mm.
and essentially allows you to track what calories you're allowed to eat or macros you're allowed to eat. Next, for example,
Mm.
6 p.m. and you've got 300 calories left, you can say, "Oh, what can I eat now?" And it'll tell you actually you need a high protein meal now based on what you've said you've eaten. So if you're tracking your food in MyFitnessPal, it'll look at that and say, "Well, actually, you need a high protein meal. Here are some suggestions." So it fits what you're going to eat. Because MyFitnessPal is more of a this is what I have eaten. This is
Mm.
more of a what can I eat
What's
to
left? Give you
still
ideas. Yeah, and I really
yeah.
like that. So have you been creating a library? Did you say so? You're creating like the image of what that might be, and then how many calories and what the micronutrients are of each.
So So yeah, I mean, as part of that, one thing which I was trying to do, obviously didn't ever really want to recreate my fitness pal because I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel and kind of stuff. But again, I'm a bit of a geek at heart, and yeah, I don't know if any of the podcast listeners are familiar with Silicon Valley and Jin Yang from Silicon Valley, the HBO program. But he basically he created an app on there, which is you take a photo and it says if it's a hot dog or not hot dog, not hot dog. And I wanted to create something similar, but not for hot dog, not hot dog. So basically, for some reason, since like April 2007, I think that's probably when I joined Facebook. I've been taking photos of my food for a long time. I've got thousands and thousands of photos of food on my phone, and in my app, I thought it would be good to be able to take a photo of some food and say this is 500 calories, it's 38 grams protein or whatever. But you only know that if it's a well-known food, so like a McDonald's cheeseburger, so or a KFC mini fillet. So yeah, I created a machine learning algorithm, trained a model in Google using all these photos of food and stuff. And I got it to work. I took a photo. I went to McDonald's, took a photo of my McDonald's double cheeseburger. I can't remember the exact figures, but I think it's something like 441 calories for a McDonald's double cheeseburger, 30 grams of protein, and 50 grams of carbs, whatever it is. And it worked. And it worked if I went and got a KFC mini fillet. It took a photo of that, and it told me it was amazing. I was like, this is going to be
That's
amazing.
really cool.
I can use it. So thought I'd put this in my app, but I'd only had it running like 3 weeks, and I got something. I don't know if it was 3,000 or 5,000. It was like a $3,000 or $5,000 bill from Google, and I was like,
Gosh,
no.
ouch.
So yeah, so I mean, obviously, anyone that likes tinkering with technology, I mean, someone in my professionalism should I put my hands up. Should probably know better than to just use technology without looking at the cost. So look, I'll take that one on the chin. But I did contact Google. They said that because I was just experimenting, working on a new product. They gave me some developer credits, basically. Obviously, that's something which some people don't even know about. Like if you're like working on an app, or I think a lot of people out there like try to get investment because they think, oh well, if I want to develop this app, it's going to cost me thousands on AWS fees or whatever. But quite often, like even if you go to conferences and stuff, they'll happily give you credits to help like with the infrastructure costs because they want you to use their infrastructure. So when you've used your £20,000 of credit, then you have to start paying them. So
I see. So it's get you
yeah,
started to start and then start paying
yeah,
for it as well. So they see the
exactly.
benefit of doing so. Yeah. So where are you at with that? Is that still in sort of process? Are you still sort of looking at building that one
According
out,
to
that app?
GitHub, according to GitHub, my last commit was February 2020. On that one,
Oh, okay.
it's frustrating, and actually, sadly, if you don't update an app after 3 years in the App Store, they remove it. So
Oh, okay.
technically, it's not available. It is a simple case of just doing a rebuild on it. I do still have it on my phone, and I do still use it. But I need to speak to my friend. We'll probably need to sort that one out. But I have been working on another app, which is more to do with like fitness tracking and stuff. It's more like from a PT perspective to help PTs generate workouts. And I mean, there's plenty. It's kind of a bit of a crazy market out there for these sorts of apps. I'm trying to make it a bit different.
Yeah. And is it using AI? Is it using the machine learning
So
behind
yeah,
that?
it's got elements of AI in it, and I think the key to it is because obviously no one quite knows where AI is going. It's kind of making sure that it's not heavily reliant on it. So, for example, if I'm generally speaking, it's a workout app. I mean, without going into detail, it's an app for PTs to go and create a workout for their client. The client can go on the app, and when they're at the gym, they can track what workouts they're doing, basically. So that's nothing revolutionary. But from a PT perspective, if they want to add like a reverse barbell incline, whatever, and it's not in the system, they can just do add and type the name in reverse barbell, whatever, press add or generate, and it will go off to AI, and it will give them the list of muscle groups and everything, and the muscles that it's targeting, because that's information that I need in to store in the database, so that in when they go to create a workout, they can filter by muscle groups and stuff. So it's kind of, I mean, technically the app works without AI, so the AI is there kind of as an assistant, just to make it quicker. And I think realistically, if you're putting AI in an app right now, that's probably a good idea to do it like that, because if you rely on it heavily, then if AI for some reason, who knows, with with the rules of what's going to be available in the future, it's
what they might change, but
I mean,
it's interesting.
to be honest,
Yeah.
so what I was going to say is, like, it's similar to, if you go back to 2010, whatever, JavaScript was heavily around in 2010, but still, if you made your app fully made of JavaScript, there'd be some people, oh, I don't have JavaScript installed, and like some people won't remember this, but you used to go to an your browser does not support JavaScript, so you couldn't use the website if you made a website full of JavaScript. So back then, good developers always used to build a web application that worked, and if you had JavaScript, it made the experience a bit better.
The functionality of it, yeah.
You can still see that in Gmail today. In Gmail, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can still say, like, view HTML version, just if you wanted to, and that's like a very slim version of Gmail that still works. But obviously, most websites and most browsers now, it's all JavaScript.
It's all JavaScript, and now it'll all be AI, won't it?
Exactly, similar thing with AI. Like, if you rely on it, some people don't have access to it. Some people aren't allowed to use it. I mean, some companies, most companies, I imagine, don't even have an AI policy yet. They're just like,
it's so new, isn't
know.
it? It's going to be a big year for it. But I remember when we spoke about AI, and you mentioned how it's crazy if you're not working with it, because it's it's going to be a massive tool to aid with efficiency, saving time. We talked about using ChatGPT as well for coding, and you taught me about, obviously, you still need to be able to read the code, right? Because it can produce some code, but if you don't know how to read it, you can't make the adjustments.
Yeah, I think
it works.
I mean, I love ChatGPT. Everyone that I work with knows that I use ChatGPT. I think it's a great tool, but yeah, it can't do things for you. Like, I think there's a lot of developers or some people in the industry like, oh, my AI is going to replace my job. Like, I mean, if I ask ChatGPT to write an application for me, it's garbage. Like, you have to be very good with prompts and stuff. Like, I use it to help because I can code. If anything, it's just to save me time. If I know exactly what I want to write, but rather than type the type the code line by line, I can literally say, can you give me, and I can be very specific about what I'm after, and it'll give it roughly right. And then you can go back to it and say, well, actually, on that bit, can you just change this to do this, this, and this? Because I don't want to do it like that. But I've seen and I've worked with people who aren't that experienced, and no fault of their own, they're wanting to learn and pick up and just crack on. But they're using ChatGPT, putting it in the stuff, and then a week later they've got a bug, and they don't know why they've got a bug, because they don't even understand the code that GPT's written for them. And obviously that's a massive no-no. It's just, yeah, it's silly, but at the same time, I'm fully behind using like AI for, if you go back a year ago, I think using AI, people probably think, should you be using it? Is it cheating or whatever? Now, I think everyone's kind of on board, or certainly I think if you're not using it, you're being a bit silly. I won't go as far as saying stupid. Like, I suppose, I think an analogy I've used before, maybe when I was talking to you before, was if you had a cleaner to come to your house,
a cleaner or dishwasher, yes, I remember this one.
If you're paying them £15 an hour, and you say you want them to like tidy the kitchen, sort the house out, whatever, and you see them there, and you say you only like got 60 quid, 4 hours, £15 an hour, right? And you're just doing your work. You go in there to grab a coffee, and you see them washing all the plates and pans by hand with a scrubbing brush. And then you go in, and they're in the utility room if you're lucky, and they're there washing all the washing in the washing up bowl by hand. You'd be, what are you doing? We've got a washing machine and we've got a dishwasher. These are tools that were invented to help us and to save time. And I think AI is just the same. It's just a tool. The difference is the dishwasher. Everyone knows how to use it now, but it does have an instruction manual if you're not sure. But AI, it's new. Not everyone knows how to use it. In fact, not many people do. And those that do don't know how to use it very well. So there's only a very select few that have really nailed it. And there's not much of an instruction manual. There's plenty of Instagram adverts offering to show you how to use it. But there's other than like some tech geeky documentation on how to use it. It's very much a new tool. I do think it's at the point where you need to be using it because if you're not, you're not. It's not an efficient use of time.
No, it's the ease of use for it, isn't it? And we talked about understanding it, but then really understanding it and getting it to the sort of the depths of the technology and the machine learning side of it. That's where someone that's been in the industry for that bit longer will understand, won't they, the programming behind it.
Exactly. I mean, you can create your own little GPT bots now. I mean, I've got a little chatbot that I use for health and fitness that I've made, and it's basically my little GPT bot. He's trained on the health and fitness world, and it's even connected to an API of mine, and I can say, can you give me a list of 20 exercises, and it talks to my database of 150 exercises, and it knows what I've got in my database. The GPT knows it's got an API connection to mine, and it's so clever what you can do. But Elia, I mean, without mentioning names, I know someone that used GPT to write a letter for work. It's very unpersonalized. It didn't have any client data in or anything. But someone complained about it, and they actually got a disciplinary for using
really
GPT to write a letter
because it wasn't themselves.
Which for that person was very upsetting because they're like, well, they actually the person works for a charity. It's very much a voluntary sort of. I mean, it is a paid role, but obviously it's in the charity sector. So it's a non-profit organisation. At the end of the day, it's just saving time and money. That's a she, but whatever. Obviously, at the end of the day, like that's amazing to be able to use a tool for charity and save time, saving everyone time and money.
Did it say top notch? Was it the word in top notch in it?
It might have been. It might have been. But funnily enough, they the same person used the same tool around the same time before they got told off to write a letter to ask for some funding for said charity. And lo and behold, they got some lottery funding out of writing this letter.
Wow! So it does work,
So it does work, and they didn't get told off for that one, obviously.
No, that's amazing. You can use it in so many different lines of work. What are your predictions for 2024? What do you think is going to happen to the tech this year? Any other sort of predictions?
I do think that more is to come from AI. I think kind of what I was saying about it being a bit more acceptable just to use it. I don't think you can just go willy-nilly use it in your job. I think you need to be open about using it in your workplace. But I think by the end of this year, it'll be commonplace for people to be using it. And I think a lot more companies will have an AI policy, just like you've got a drinking policy, whether you're allowed to drink on the job or whatever. Like there will be things like that. I mean, I think some people you need to like use their noggin a little bit, like putting client data in. You will probably get you sacked, like or sticking. I mean, some of the places that I've worked have specifically said you can use this AI. So, for example, just in Azure. Obviously, in the DevOps world, Azure, they've got their own implementation of OpenAI because it's Microsoft OpenAI and Azure. They've got their own thing that you can use. And in this particular company, they're saying, look, you can use AI as long as you use this one. Just don't use the ChatGPT one. So that's good. That's already been defined, and that's fine. But I think if you're in a company that doesn't have that, then you just need to be careful, making sure you're not just giving
sharing information that's not meant to be shared.
Exactly.
So do you think there'll be a lot more regulations and a lot more sort of rules put in place, like you say, the AI policy, but just a few more guidelines on it?
I think that's what it'll be. It'll be like the policies and the guidelines to make sure that you're using it correctly. I don't see that it will be stopped. But like I said, I think if you're building a product with AI at its core, I think you just need to be careful to make sure that your product's not going to be a flop if for some reason the rules do change, because that's like the worst thing you could do. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of more tools that you'll see coming out with AI towards the end of the year. I think there's it's crazy to see the imaginative use cases that people are using for AI. Even just things like I think everyone will have a better understanding towards the end of the year of how to get out of AI what you want in terms of like prompts. Like if you go back like 6 months and you said, what's a good AI prompt? Not many people would know, but I think even now a lot more people are aware of how to massage the information out of AI of what they want. Now it's very easy to give it like almost a task list. You could say, look, these are my tasks. Or in fact, you might not have a task list. You might tell it your goal. Can you break it down into tasks? And then for each task, explain how to do each task and break those down into subtasks and explain those. And it'll go away and it'll just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going until you've got an amazing task list. I mean, yeah, I just think it's going to get a lot easier to use AI.
A lot easier to use, yeah. What advice have you got to people that want to get into it? Obviously, it's a massive hot topic at the moment. If somebody wants to get into AI as a technology to develop certain applications, what's your advice on what they should be learning?
I mean, obviously, like given target audience, I think a lot of people listening are probably fairly techie anyway. So, like at the end of the day, like if you want to get into using AI, best thing to do is just check out the OpenAI docs. There's so much on there of how to integrate. There's so many Python libraries. Let's have a go at creating something yourself. I mean that's something we've talked about as well before in terms of don't just wait for your job to say, oh, we need someone to do AI. You just pick it up, do it yourself. Just go on GitHub, get some code examples, install Python if you don't have it, but get an open API key. And all the documentation is amazing on OpenAI. Sign up to their emails. I mean, I get obviously their emails when they've added new functionality, and I go and have a play with that. Create an OpenAI chatbot and things like that. There's so much to play with.
There's lots of support around that, isn't there? And templates you can use to start using it.
For sure. Yeah.
And any other advice that you would give to DevOps engineers out there, with your experience, your expertise, any advice that you would give to people in the industry?
I mean, I would definitely say AWS. Whilst I'm here, I'm gonna just say AWS. I know that'll cause a nice.
It's your favorite.
Exactly. Look, there's plenty of people that like using Azure and Google and AWS. Like, obviously, they're all big, massive, competing against each other. Personally, I've used AWS for the longest. I started using it in like 2012 or something, and I do think it's one of the easiest ones to learn. I am biased, probably just because that's the one I've used the most. But I've got a friend of mine down at the gym, and he's a React developer, but he wants to get into like cloud and DevOps stuff. Obviously, he knows what I do and stuff. And I suggested that he go down the AWS Cloud Fundamentals route. I think that's what it's called. They're just their initial offering, and he just in his own time spent a couple of months, and I think it's in December. I think it was December. He passed it, and now he's got he can put AWS certified on his CV.
Amazing. Well, doing stuff like that on your own back, getting your own qualifications, doing your own training courses, it goes a really long way, doesn't it? Because it shows that you are genuinely interested, you want to upskill yourself. Just looks really, really good. You also mentioned as well that it's that practice of doing like your own projects. So when you're doing your own projects, that's where you're really learning and problem solving and getting better
Yeah,
at
I
it.
mean, I think like on paper, on paper, my professional career, like being paid a salary, is I've been doing it for 20 years, but that's based on what, 37 and a half, 40 hours a week. But in terms of actually coding, I've easily averaged 60 or maybe 80 hours a week coding for the past 30 years. So like,
Yeah.
that's almost 60 years of experience. So I think when you look at someone's age when you're interviewing someone, I mean, I know no one ever is allowed to be ageist, right, when interviewing. But if you're interviewing someone and they're only 23, well, might not have that much experience. Well, how do you know? They might have been coding since they were 10 and been doing 8 hours a week
Yeah.
of just coding. And like, they're probably some 23-year-olds can easily have more experience hands-on than a 30-year-old. Will they ever be experienced as much professional environments and different stuff? Maybe not, but I mean, those sorts of things can easily be filled in.
That comes with time, doesn't it? It's like with any profession, you know, the more you've got experience, the more you've been doing it, the more different situations that you've been in that you can use your knowledge to, you know, solve that particular problem because you dealt with it before. So experience definitely goes a long way.
Definitely. I mean, obviously going back to like certifications, I mean, I'm AWS certified, but look, I mean, I think it was February 2018. That's like a long time ago now. So I think having certifications is obviously a good thing, and they're going to back up your knowledge. But experience is always going to count for a lot. I mean, a lot of things these days, people ask for tech tests all the time now. I mean, personally, I don't like tech tests, and fortunately, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's how my interviews go or whatever, but I've not had to do a tech test since I think Sky in 2012 or something. So look, like
There you go.
I do recall that tech test, and it's one of those and under pressure environments where you get a phone call, here you got to do this, you got the next 2 hours to send it back, and it is a good way to put someone on the spot and make sure they do know what they're doing. And I think these days with a lot of I don't know, remote interviews and stuff, it's very, I mean, you see these Instagram videos of someone having an interview here, and then on this screen they've got OpenAI answering the questions for them, and like
Exactly. You don't want them cheating, do you, at the same time? It's
yeah,
interesting what you say about tech tests. We do a lot of video profiling of candidates, but technical tests can be useful for when you're not sure how someone's level of experience is. So someone like yourself, you can see from your background that you've got the knowledge there. But if they're a bit more junior to the industry, it might be more useful to sort of test what they know and what they don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It is obviously it's a great industry to be in, and I think there's so many different areas for learning, and I think, like, going back to my friend who's a React developer, I mean, he could easily just have a front end career for the next 30 years, but there's so many opportunities. He's now learning Docker. He's got an AWS certification. He's going to start learning how to do database stuff and then back end APIs, and it's kind of, there's just an infinite amount of stuff that you could learn, and I think it's just so exciting. I mean, I love it. I mean, I do it in my own spare time. I mean, even last night I was playing around with just for fun some C++ MQL5 algorithm for trading in the forex markets, and it's kind of just for fun.
Yeah.
There's just so many things you can do, and I think the key is having that interest. If you've got a genuine passion for technology, there will be something which interests you, whether it's a front end developer or whether it's back end and data. I mean, data itself is a big thing, like data engineers and stuff dealing with SQL queries. So yeah, there's lots.
There's lots out there, and it's just booming, isn't it? The whole AI. Thank you so much for sharing your insight into your experience and your advice to others out there. So thank you, Bobby.
No worries. Cheers.
Speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.